Good morning. Hello, everybody. Vincent Julius is here. I'm here. I hope you're here with me. I hope that you guys have been enjoying the videos that I have been bringing to the table. It's food for thought, and I'm sharing these things because I know it's important to get it out. I know it's important to share this with everybody because everybody's on the same road. And this came to me. I was sitting in church and the preacher says something about, pretty much what's the word? He called it like a social project, but he was saying that in terms of like when others involve themselves in the question of some sort. If he gives a question and we raise our hands, what do the rest do? The rest raise their hands too because they're like, oh, they're doing it, I'm doing it. So it's like an encouragement. But in that moment, they have this big screen behind them or behind him or whatever on the stage. And I kind of like in my peripheral, I saw everybody, sitting in aim, because we're sitting towards the stage. So that way we can hear the music and see the preacher and all that. Just sitting there, and I saw this path. It was a path that we were all on. We were all on the same path. It's a big path. It's really wide, right? Really wide. And we're all walking towards the same direction. Every single one of us. Now, we're all experiencing the same thing, but we're experiencing different things at different times in our life for whatever the reason, okay? Now, we don't see the reasons because we're all walking in the same direction. So this imagine there's people in front of you and there's people behind you, okay? Now, you may see some turn away from the path that we're all on, right? Some left, some right, some maybe even backwards, okay? Some of us may still keep walking on. Some may even turn to go help those who turned away from the path for whatever the reason. And the reason could be doubt, hope. Well, hold on. Let me go back. Turning away from the path is usually I wish I could pull up my notes because it came to me and I was just typing it in my phone. But the reasoning behind it can be doubt, anger, impatience, wrath, blindness, whatever the case, things that aren't serving. And when we become these things, when these things come inside of us, we turn from the path because we think that this path that we're going to go on instead, because of our impatience, our wrath, our anger, whatever the case, is going to better serve us because now we can take control of something, right? And some may keep just walking on, and they'll even see you go, and they'll keep walking, right? Some will follow behind you, or some may see somebody, maybe a couple people ahead, or maybe just in front of them, whatever the case. It doesn't matter where, but they just are. And somebody may go behind them and try to go help them out and like, hey, let me see if I can help you, man. Like, what's going on with you? Why are these things? Why do you turn away from the path? This is the path for all of us. Why do you turn? And by doing so, that person who goes to help them, hopefully they are successful at bringing them back to the path that we're all on, right? Because the destination is the same for all of us. And by doing that, that person who goes to help that person, we end up serving them, right? We serve them. And in that moment, what came to me is straight and narrow is the path. And so serving somebody to help them get back on the right track is a very narrow path. And what I mean by that is not everybody goes out of their way to help somebody. They don't. Some people do, some people don't. Some people don't know that they need the help because, they can't see what they're going through, but all they see is that somebody went off the path. So they try or they bring them back to the path if they're able to, if they're successful. Sometimes chasing that person forever could, as I'm talking about it, this is fresh, as they're chasing that person down to get them back onto that path, sometimes it might be too late to bring them back. It doesn't mean you don't try to help them. Maybe you can help them through prayer. Maybe you can help them by sending them letters or texting them or calling them, but you're not doing the part where you're pulling yourself down with them. You are doing your part from afar now, because now it's pulling you down, it's pulling you backwards. And when that happens, that's the time to get back on the path to help get yourself, build back up again. Because by following them, you may be following that wrath, you may be following that doubt, you may be following that laziness, you may be following that thing and not knowing that you're taking it upon yourself now. And so I think there comes a limit and a time where you don't kill yourself for somebody else who isn't willing to even be helped. And for those who just kind of watch and keep moving on, I think those are the ones who see it but don't want to get pulled from the path, and so they stay on track, right? Which is, I think, is fine, but that behavior isn't helping the next person who might be in front of them, whoever that may be, who might venture off. And that might be a close one, a friend, a wife, whoever the case may be. And they're like, no, I gotta stay on the path. I think where that downfall comes is that person that's connected to you in whichever way can actually, they may be tied in with your path that you're going on. So they may be experiencing something before you do. And if you see that they're in front of you and you can see what it is, and if you're able to see, that's discernment. And only some things you can actually experience on this path, like discernment, like hope, like faith, like love, like patience, all those things, the things that are better serving you on this path, you're only able to experience while you're on this path. And so when you're able to experience that and see that in somebody else, and you see that they may go off and you don't go to help them, you may be actually harming yourself, maybe even killing yourself, maybe even making your path shorter because you didn't take the time to serve them when they needed the serving, to help them get back on that path. Straight and narrow is the path. Some may walk back. I didn't see this in my head, but as I'm talking about it out loud, some people walk back probably because of the past. The past is something that is very present in them, and it's very difficult for them to move forward because their past is pulling them back. Whatever that is, whatever the reason, and if you're able to see that from the person that's in front of you is going backwards, you either, like I said before, you may have that option. I would say you should, but I shouldn't shit on anybody. There's an option to grab them before they go too far back, to help them see, hey, that past isn't serving you. And this makes me think about the story of Abraham and one of the daughter-in-laws, I think, looks, and Sodom and Gomorrah was getting destroyed. One of them looks back and they turn into a pillar of salt. And pretty much don't look back at your past, because that person's going back to their past is turning into a pillar of salt. They're going to get stuck. Salt is also bitter. It's salty. So that person may be going back towards the bitterness of their life that isn't serving them no more. And so they're getting stuck. They're becoming like a stone. They're harder to move back, because the deeper you go back into your past, and if you're going back for the wrong reasons, it's really hard to bring them back. It's a deep pit. So to be able to catch them before they go back, you're doing them a service. You're trying to serve them. Straight and narrow is the path, and I want to bring them back forward. Okay, and there are people behind you. Okay, not that they're behind you as in they're behind you like they're lesser. No. Where you're at in your life, they're not there yet. So those who may be behind you may be doing the same thing. But if you look back, you may see your past, and you may end up going back towards that thing of your past. And hopefully those who see that is behind you can see you turning around. They can grab you and pull you back. Or I would say, if you see something from your past or something of that nature, I would say if you're trying to learn something from your past so that way you don't repeat it, that may not require you to actually go look back, but more like sit with what happened in the past so that way you cannot repeat it. But if you look back to go back, that's when it starts getting heavy and deep and kind of scary, depending on who it is. And that past thing could be addiction. It could be a broken relationship. It could be a tarnished relationship, broken relationship. It could be a bitterness that somebody left in your mouth. It could be hatred that somebody placed in you that has festered in you long enough. Whatever the case, something that makes you go back, something that makes you keep reliving the past, that's pulling you back. That's going looking backwards, okay? Straight and narrow's the path here, okay? Going forward, we're all experiencing the same thing, but when we veer off from the path, there are things that we all still experience when we turn off from that path. If you have discernment, you can see what happens when we turn away from that path. We see what happens because we either experienced it ourselves or we have witnessed somebody else gone through it, which is who is already in front of us, and we can try to help them get back on that path, okay? But the path is wide. Everybody's on this path. The path is very wide. Now, it makes me think about this. There's a path that seems right in our eyes, but it ultimately leads to death. But there's a wide load of all of us trying to get into that narrow gate. The gate is wide. The gate is really wide, which is the path. But the path to get into that gate is very narrow. And I would want to say that to stay on that path, it's difficult because we want to be in control of that little path. And it's not for us to control, it's for us to walk on and to stay on that narrow path. And I believe to do that, we have to serve each other. We have to help each other to move forward. But if you're starting to die to the point where, it's no longer helping you, you're starting to deteriorate from helping so much, I think there comes a healthy boundary of growth to get you back on that path, so that way you can continue moving forward. And hopefully that person you were wanting to help remembers the seeds that was planted in them by you or somebody else, and God is helping it grow. But every so often you go into water it by what I was saying, letters, texting them, phone calls. You're not really giving up on them, but you're not putting all your eggs on them, In this case, if you are married, it says to, like Christ, he lived for the church, we also died for the church. In this case, our wife, or I would say if your husband, you serve your wife, you serve your family, you die for them, and you present them as a new, and you be gentle with them, and you help them along the path, because if you let them go, you're going with them regardless of what you think. That's point blank period. So to have your wife, as I'm learning myself, I'm not perfect whatsoever, but as I'm learning myself, I'll speak for myself. With my wife, I must learn to serve her, to watch her over and over again with the word, to renew her mind as I'm being renewed by Christ each day, day in, day out, to help her move with me in this path that is straight and narrow, to serve her, to help lift her up, so that way we can continue moving forward as a family that's never ending, and to have that foundation and those principles instilled into her and in myself, so that our family, our children, gets the same thing, that same loving and intention. And and I know it won't be perfect, but to get enough in them so that they do the same thing in their lives to help the next person. And hopefully with our son, he gets a wife in the future. I hope God says the same. I pray that he gives him a long life. Our children, our child that's in the womb right now, and more to come, if God says the same, that they do the same thing, that the things that we have taught them by the life that we have embodied, they are able to do the same with their family, and understand that this path isn't easy, and that with the proper teachings and understanding, you can yourself also walk this narrow path if you continue on to build your relationship with Christ, and to serve one another. To serve is, love God, love thy neighbor, period. That's it. If you understand that your neighbor is also your wife, it's also you. But in order for you to be served, in order for you to serve yourself, I say go to somebody who is doing the things that you want, that is godlike, that is righteous, that is pure, that it's helpful, that it helps others. You be around those people, you talk with them so that way they can give you something that helps kind of direct your steps and you make it your own. Hopefully it's a path that's leading you to that relationship with Christ, so that way you can continually love on him as he loves on you, as he loves on you, you love on your neighbor, the person that's your wife, your friend, your family, whoever the case may be, your work colleague. You serve because they need that more than you think they do. If you don't serve them, you might as well kill them yourself. That's the realness of it. That's the rawness of it. So serve them so that way they can live a life that is plentiful and that is God fulfilling, and God can establish that relationship with them. And that may be even happening through you. And hopefully this is doing the same thing as I share these videos, that this is something that helps you reconnect your relationship with Christ, and that you take the time to talk with them, you pray with them, you read his word, go to church. Church is good. It is for everybody, but also build your relationship with Christ, with Christ, those who are also on the same path but trying to build their relationship with Christ, even those who aren't even trying to build their relationship with Christ. It doesn't mean you hide that part of yourself. You express that part of yourself to them, because they may need that seed to help them in their life, and you don't know how much of a presence could be changing their lives. So it is very important to serve and to love on one another, so that way we can live this life that God has given us, and to be grateful that he gave us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a mouth to speak, but also to be able to smell things, to feel things, to move in certain ways, to be grateful for what God has given you, and to remind them of the things that God has given them, and to show them that when you have hope, that drives us forward. But when you have less of hope, doubt can come in, which makes us turn away from that path, and makes us go down a doubtful road of life, and which also builds resentment, bitterness, anger, wrath, and many more things. And so to help somebody that you may know who's in that same type of path, you help bring that hope back into them. You plant the seed of hope in them, so that way it grows in them, because there's a little bit of light in them too. There's a lot of light, but there's a little bit of light that's shining through, and you can see that in them. You can help them along their path in whichever way that is supposed to help them, and just do enough to help them move forward. But don't overwater, because you may lift that seed up and it may start floating off. Plant the seed, water here and there, let God do the growing, as hopefully somebody's doing the same thing in you. Whoever's planted that last seed in you, hopefully they have been still checking up on you and watering that seed, and God has been growing it through confirmation in some ways, big or small, whatever the case. Alrighty guys, that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. My name is Vincent Julius. I hope this message blesses you. I hope this message gives you clarity. I hope that this has put somebody on your heart that you want to help, and then if they are on your heart, reach out to them. A simple hello may be the thing they need to hear. Who knows? All right, you guys. Deuces.